Let's jump to the big breaking news, everybody. From the Daily Mail, white cop who shot Jacob Blake 7 times in front of his kids will not face charges. Kenosha brings in National Guard and braces for unrest as DA refuses to prosecute officer who left black man paralyzed. On Tuesday, the Kenosha County District Attorney Michael Gravely said his office will not file charges against the white police officer Rustin Shesky. Shesky was the officer who shot Jacob Blake. This is really interesting. Daily Mail just has to put black man Jacob Blake 7 times, leaving him paralyzed on August 23rd. Shesky had responded to a call about a domestic incident and opened fire as Blake was getting into his SUV, where his 3 young children watched in Kenosha, Wisconsin. I also want to point out that didn't they say he was reaching for a knife, or he had a knife? Jacob Blake did. Everyone's nodding yes. Yeah. He said it is incontrovertible. Here we go. It is incontrovertible that Blake had a knife, saying officers reported seeing a razor blade type knife. Ahead of the announcement, Wisconsin mobilized the National Guard. Kenosha declared a state of emergency. Blake's lawyers condemned the decision, saying this sends the wrong message to police officers throughout the country. It says it is okay for police to abuse their power and recklessly shoot their weapons. Now, while this is happening, we also have news coming out of NPR that Kyle Rittenhouse is pleading not guilty to all charges. For those that aren't familiar, Kyle Rittenhouse is the young man who showed up to the riots that ignited because of the Jacob Blake incident. And long story short, is clear-cut self-defense as far as I'm concerned. I mean, you even have some leftists who brought it up and got really roasted for it, Destiny in particular. This is a kid, Kyle Rittenhouse. He was working in Wisconsin. Someone in Wisconsin had given him a weapon. Probably a bad idea. Kid probably shouldn't have been there. But we had several witnesses on the show who told us what happened. These are journalists who were there on the ground, like Richie McGinnis, who actually rendered aid to one of the guys who got shot and died. And I mean, multiple witnesses told us the rioters were pushing a flaming dumpster to a gas station, and Kyle Rittenhouse took a fire extinguisher. Kyle Rittenhouse is seen running with a fire extinguisher. But there's videos of him and other people putting fires out. This triggered the rioters. They got really mad. They chased after him, attacked him, and then someone else fired a gun into the air in the or some say it's in the air. Others say it was in the direction of Rittenhouse and the guy chasing him. This guy, I think his name was Rosenbaum, one of the guys who died. And then Rittenhouse, hearing the gunshot, turned around, and that's when the dude swung at him and he fired. He runs. As far as I'm concerned, it looks like self-defense. The crazy thing is the left is saying outright, no way, he's a terrorist and a mass shooter and all this crazy stuff. But it's really worrying to me when you have situations like this, low information individuals who don't watch the videos or just don't care. Take that into consideration now as they're saying this cop is not being charged. I'll open up to the panel. Gentlemen, is the riot a-coming?
Duh. I mean, is the sky blue? I mean, right now we're getting the reports of the mayor asking everyone to be peaceful. We're getting reports of the Blake family and supporters already marching through the city. Who knows how it's going to turn out? But as you were mentioning with the Kyle situation, Kyle's legal team actually released their version of events, their video, their photos of what happened to them. And the depictions were almost completely opposite of what the mainstream media was depicting and telling us was happening. So again, based on, both of the two stories, look at both of them, make up your own decision. But also in this story, like you were reading it, you see race being weaponized by the mainstream media, and you always see white man, black man. But, this is only particularly in this instance, but when it comes to other instances, when they can't weaponize it, they can't use it to divide and conquer people, they can't use it to put fuel on the fire, they don't mention it.
I think our media has a vestigial or some kind of sickness.
Yeah, ill intent.
Well, no, look. Like, there was a reason why you would write about a white man attacking a black man, because we had serious racism in American history. We had, like, the civil rights era. But we're well past that era. I'm not going to say everything's perfect. But certainly we've made great strides, and now we have this problem where the media still wants to highlight the race of the people, even though that's not what caused any of this. There's a police officer getting a report of a woman who had just been assaulted in her bed by this man, who then reached for a knife, which even the court was saying incontrovertible. The dude had a weapon. They recovered the weapon. He said he had a weapon, and the cop said drop it several times, and the dude, Jacob Blake, didn't listen. He was actually fighting the cops. They got to make it about race, though. Could you imagine what would happen if our laws were just like, it doesn't matter if you're innocent or guilty, it matters what your race is? Because that's part of what we're looking at, too. Now, I don't want to derail too much, but I don't know if you guys saw the CDC was advising to give the vaccine based on race. Now I'm supposed to be convinced that Medicare for all is the appropriate way to go. The government should be in control of healthcare when you're telling me they're going to give on race. That's creepy stuff, man. It's creepy. But now you've got people. I don't know. Let me ask you guys. I think it's obvious to a lot of people. It seems probably like a redundant question, but the left rioting and protesting in a situation like this, ignorance, exploitation, both.
Both. Absolutely both. And our Democratic presidential candidates, they totally took advantage of it. They kept saying, we're so proud of Jacob Blake. Like, really? Proud of him. That's great.
That's the creepiest
not a
thing.
Criminal.
This is a family-friendly show. Yep. But the things he was doing to that woman, I can't say.
No.
He was pinning her down, and I can't repeat. Assault.
Assault is
assault.
Yes.
Yeah, but we got to keep it family friendly.
Right.
I don't go into details on that stuff. We'll get demonetized. We'll get deranked. It was serious stuff. Where was the Me Too movement? This dude was wanted for abusing a woman, pinning her down in her bed, and the cops were trying to stop him, and he fought with them. Mm-hmm. Could you imagine any other scenario? What would have happened if those cops died? Would there be riots for them? No.
No. Not in that situation.
So what do you do? What are we supposed to do as a society when you have something like the Me Too movement demanding that these men be held accountable?
Right.
But when the cops actually come to hold them accountable, they blame the cops.
I mean, believe all women. I mean, like who called 911, right?
Well,
it was the mother who is an African American woman. So you'd think that, just on the intersectionality pyramid that, she's black and she's a woman, and hey, you have to believe her even more.
Yeah.
Right.
They
but
ignore
instead,
her outright.
like, oh no, this man was shot with a gun, and it's
yeah.
And everybody just took advantage of it. Like how Kamala was meeting with his family and meeting with him on bedside. It's like, for what? Like, what did he do? This guy's not a hero.
Low information voters, man.
And I'm very happy you brought up Kamala. I don't know how to say her name. Sorry, arrest me, throw me in jail, throw me in the gulag, please. I made a big misnomer here.
Yeah.
But it's funny you bring her up because specifically, also talking about believe all women, she's the one that went after Joe Biden very hard against the allegations against him and other women, and now she's also blinded to it. The people who are adding fuel to the fire are filled with so much hypocrisy. The only constant is Joe Biden, who previously was for segregation, also kind of pushing for segregation issues right now in our modern day and age.
He never changed.
He never changed. So that's the only consistency that we have here with the establishment, and of course the mainstream media follows and regurgitates everything they say.
Has it always been this bad?
Probably.
No.
I
I think
think
probably way worse before.
So there was.
I think it's the rhetoric has been there. It's just that social media and 100,000 cable channels and YouTube channels just amplify it. So it just seems louder. It seems like it's a bigger thing. But like, there was a John Wayne interview from years past, and he was basically saying that the left they're the loudest voices, and if you don't listen to them, if you don't agree with their ideology, that you're wrong and that you're like a bad person, and that they just keep driving it home that you need, if you don't believe in this, you're wrong and you're bad. You have to believe in this, which is the right way and the only way. And that was back in the 70s when he said that. So it's
always been that way.
Yeah.
There was a story from NPR where they said 40% of like people believe ridiculous conspiracy theories. And I noticed something really interesting. NPR separates what they called incorrect statements from correct statements. Mm-hmm. And then you see that among the incorrect statements, more people believe them versus the correct statements. But there is one big one thing that differentiates the two was timeliness. People believe the conspiracies if it's new, if it's in the recent history, and they believe overwhelmingly the mainstream narrative if it was long since passed, right? So one of the questions was like, was Barack Obama born in America? Most people, like 75%, said yes, and then like 20% said not sure. Smaller percentage said no. But that's because that was back 2008, well before social media. And the advent of big VC-funded blogs. Take a look at Wikipedia right now, and I think this is a perfect example. You go to any conservative's Wikipedia, and it is an aggregation of negative opinions from left-wing activists. That's not a biography of somebody. Like, if I really wanted to know, say, who like Jack Posobiec was, I don't need to hear that you think he's far-right, alt-right, ultra-right, nationalist, and all of these other opinions you have about him that they're like, you get a whole paragraph where like, it's been disputed as to what he personally believes. You get the guy on record saying what he believes, but they'll put into Wikipedia all of their opinions about him that are as negative as possible. Because what's happened now is we've got millions of different websites, and they all just repeat everything that gets the clicks. So Kamala Harris doesn't care if Jacob Blake was sexually abusing this woman.
Right.
No one's going to find out because they're not going to read the news.
Well, they either slander or also disappear you, just like they did with Chris Martinson, just like they did with me personally. But also another thing that I wanted to bring up here, when segregationists were making the argument that people should stay apart because of their race, one of the things they used to do is they used to highlight certain events and also do what the mainstream media is doing now and highlight the race of a specific attacker, the race of a specific victim, and use that as propaganda in order to galvanize people to be for segregation. And then when we see this weaponized in so many instances, it's so weird seeing that being the major highlight rather than the actual discussion of what actually happened, who was actually right, what is the evidence. Can we make up our mind here when we first are able to actually see what happened rather than jump into conclusions and being kind of radicalized as the internet, as social media, as the algorithms, as the timelines, as everything that the big tech monopolies shove down your throat are showing you as it is.
So here's a really good example of like how screwed up everything is and why you end up with these imbalanced riot type situations was the leaked phone call with Trump. You listened to it, Andrew?
Oh, yeah.
The 4 minutes that come out, Trump's like, I need to find 11,780 votes. And then all the left is screaming, it's worse than Watergate. And they're throwing up on themselves and convulsing. And then I'm like, well, I'd sure love to hear the full audio of the phone call. And then it turns out there's a little bit of bad stuff Trump said, but for the most part, it's kind of meh. There's a little bit of bad stuff that Raffensperger said, and it's kind of meh. But if you actually approached that story from a legitimate journalistic point of view, you'd say, okay, well, it's not that big of a deal that Trump said that. He was talking about the various areas where they have found, where they believe they have fraudulent votes. And he was saying, we don't need to do a hard investigation of every single accusation. We just need 11,780. But you also had statements from Brad Raffensperger, like he didn't know that Georgia even had a consent decree. That's kind of a big deal. So if you approached that and you leaked the audio of, say, Brad Raffensperger saying we can confirm dead voters, which he said, and we have no consent decree, you could have leaked that portion and been like, whoa, crazy. But the Washington Post, which is supposed to be mainstream media, ignored the things that Raffensperger was saying that were questionable and only presented the things that they could take to make Trump look bad.
And then everybody reported on those 4 minutes, and it was at least a couple hours until they released the full hour recording. But at that point, nobody's going to be listening to that.
Strategic.
Yeah, and just the fact that when you go and look for that news, that CBS and ABC, they're all focusing on those 4 minutes on that one line they needed to find the votes.
What's the narrative now with Jacob Blake? Because I don't want to derail too much, but in what reality is there a leftist saying it was good that Jacob, that these cops?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. He was black. That's it.
Yeah, well,
that's
Andrew
it. It's
Yang,
all. It all has to do with race. That's it. That's the lens that it's not that they're forced to do it. It's what they want to do. They want to look down that lens and say it's all about race. Was
Democrats
he a
have always
criminal?
felt that way,
Yeah,
huh?
but I mean, when you look at all, when you even with George Floyd, was it what was inside his body that killed him? You know,
Fentanyl.
or right? What was it? Was it all these things that exacerbated that?
And
or
then you get the
was
full,
it,
full video release later on showing it was much more nuanced than anyone wanted to believe.
But even after that was leaked, and these cops are overcharged. I don't think they're going to see a day in prison.
I agree. Yeah.
But even after that full audio was leaked, it was ignored. It was completely ignored. They did
but
not
You talking
care.
about a Trump thing?
No. The George Floyd body cam footage gets released.
Where he's
and
like,
then-
put me on the ground.
When
I'm
he's
going to
like,
die
take-
today.
yeah,
I'm going
yeah.
to die today.
When
You're
he's
like,
in the back of the
okay.
car and he's
You
saying,
wanna
I
die?
can't breathe for 20 minutes while he's sitting in the back of the car.
And then he says, take me out, put me on the ground.
Right.
Several times.
And this is
they did.
But the thing is, and you're right, it was much more nuanced than that. But nobody cares because it
look,
goes against the narrative that it was.
It's this simple. The people that care are a problem for the establishment machine that just wants blind zealots to say, tell me what to do, please. It's like, it reminds me of that scene from Avengers when Loki is like, he tells everyone to bow and says, is this not better, your natural state? There's that one guy who stood up and said, I won't bow to you. That's like like the average people in the know who are questioning the media. But the Democrats seek out those who would just drop to their knees and say, just tell me what to do. I don't want to be involved. I'll do whatever you say. It's easier that way. So when you can take a regular person, that's why we have the idea of the red pilling and the blue pilled people, because you got regular people who I think the Hunter Biden story is probably the best example of why nobody believes the media anymore, because NPR said we won't waste our time on non-stories. So here you got imagine you got some 40-year-old dude and he's in his house and his wife is making breakfast for the kids, and then he's like, I go to work, and then he's watching CNN and they're like, the Hunter Biden thing's fake news, and he goes, I thought so. And now a month later they're like, Hunter Biden, it's all true, and he's going, what? Are you kidding me? A month ago you said it was fake. Now you're saying it's true.
Probably like, what's
Russian
that?
disinformation.
They hear it's fake, it's gone, and then a month later comes out it was true, and they're like, what was true? What is that? I don't even remember what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Something
Yeah.
about Hunter. Who's
Or
Hunter?
it's just that not everybody
Joe Biden's
watches
cousin's son or something.
They don't watch all the news all the time. But I have to imagine there's a lot of people who wake up when they see this and they say, I care about what's going on. I care about why my checks are smaller.
Mm-hmm.
I care about why my property value is like going through the roof, is inflating in certain areas, and why certain goods are really expensive at the store now. And they turn to the news and look for answers, and you don't get it anymore.
No, not on the news. Not
No.
on that crap. It's like
Right.
that same corporate. It's that they talk like this. They have that same and coming up, and it's like deet, and then it shows the graph. It's like there's a comfort.
Even
to
Tucker
it.
Carlson.
Yeah.
Even Tucker Carlson
Regular.
has that, like, he's not the same as the way, news people talk, but he has his TV style presentation, which is, I always just find it weird.
It's normal.
Who is it? Rachel Maddow sounds like Chris Hayes. They sound alike when they talk. It's
And they
that
look the
weird
same, like
new
the same style.
media
Same
sound.
hair,
now.
same glasses.
People don't realize they're reading a script. What matters is who's writing the script. And many times we see many big organizations just regurgitate press releases. They do it for smaller companies. They do it for special interests. So what makes you think they're not doing it for bigger interests, for bigger powers out there that benefit off of people fighting each other, rather than, of course, looking at the real problems, the real injustices, the real things that actually go out there and touch them in the average day and life of a human being? Those issues are usually just scrapped to the side. Meanwhile, hey, look, it's black man, white man. Whoa.
Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. We do the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., so come back to check us out when we go live. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, hit the notification bell, and we are also available on all podcast platforms for free if you want to listen to us there. Thanks for hanging out, and we will see you all next time.